Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the August 25th, 2022 edition of Collect Our Cousins, Engaging White People in the Struggle for Full Democracy. I'm Karen Fleshman, your host and the creator of Collect Our Cousins, this weekly live stream. I'm also the founder of Racy Conversations. We're a workplace workshop facilitation company, and our mission is to inspire the anti-racist generation. And I'm also a candidate for the San Francisco Board of Education. So if you live in San Francisco, please vote for me. Please volunteer on my campaign. If you live anywhere, please donate. I put the link
That's
to
right.
my Act Blue. We need people like me. I'm running because only 58% of SFUSD graduates are college and career ready. And among Black graduates, only 25%, among Latinx graduates, only 32%. So I'm running to end our two-tier education system here in San Francisco and fight for equitable education for everybody. But let me just read my little preamble about why I created the show before I introduce our amazing guest, LeRon. I created Collect Our Cousins, engaging white people in the struggle for full democracy to help white Americans like me become more effective in our conversations with white people in our lives, to help us build an embodied anti-racist white culture, in the words of Resma Menachem. I'm featuring the people who inspire and teach me the most, like LeRon. White Americans, the battle for our democracy will not be won in courtrooms or in the streets. It must be won in our living rooms, at our dinner tables, in neighborhood meetings, school board meetings. As an anti-racist, collecting my cousins often falls to the end of my to-do list. Oh, I'll get to that next month. But I want to encourage everyone watching here today to write a list of your white friends and family you will collect this year. There are 21 million Americans, largely white, who believe that Donald Trump is the legitimate president and political violence may be necessary to restore him. And there's plenty of other Americans who don't share those beliefs, but do share racist beliefs or are somehow neutral, who we need to collect. And we are frontline in that battle. So thank you so much. With that said, LeRon Barton, for being here with me today, with us today. I'm so glad. Oh, thank you, Rebecca. Rebecca, thank you so much. That's so kind. I appreciate you. Thank you. Yes, don't even get me started on San Francisco politics and just kind of yeah, I think we need more competitive elections in San Francisco and not the same group like dominating everything. But let me leave it at that. Good morning, Laurent.
Good morning, Ms. Fleshman. How are you today?
I am well. I am so excited to be in conversation with one of my all time favorite human beings on the planet,
Yeah,
ally
yeah.
extraordinaire.
Thank
Okay,
you.
every woman needs an ally like LaRon Barton.
Yes,
They
ma'am. Absolutely.
everybody needs an ally like LaRon. I mean,
Thank
LaRon,
you.
the way you um empathize and advocate. Oh, good morning, Cindy. Yay. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey,
So glad
Cindy.
you're here. Yay, love you, Cindy. The way you show up in this world with so much
Thank you.
compassion and action. You're not just words, you are there. And I just the way like you and I, there's some things that we have very deep disagreements about, but you always treat me with so much respect and kindness, and you are just a wonderful human being, Laurent.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate that, Karen. This first off, I love you, and I think you are a wonderful person, and you truly want to see change. I think that my level of compassion comes from the fact that I've been bullied. I've obviously I've been discriminated against, but just I I don't know, like I always say this, Karen, like I'm not an individual, but I'm a part of a collective.
Mm,
So I feel like that you know if I rise, then and my folks don't rise, then I've done something really wrong.
mm.
So yeah, I mean, so, that's just pretty much that's just pretty much what I'm about. Just I want I love to lift other people up
Mm,
and also help them shine and just inform people. I mean, like I it's like my friend Jason Tesloff said. He said I strive to live in eternal gratitude. And
mm.
that means that not only speaking but also um receiving and discarding things that are not applicable, discarding, just throwing away stuff that's just wrong. I mean,
Mm,
I think that we all need to be malleable and be able to just sort of change the way that we look at things, because things are very dynamic, and you can't have that same train of thought that you had 16 years ago today. I mean, there are some things that I'm pretty concrete about, but just a lot of things, it's just about remaining open to challenge your ideals.
I love that. I love that, LeRon.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about your journey to anti-racism and what your life story
Sure.
is about.
Yes, ma'am. So, again, my name is LeRon Barton. I'm a son. I'm a brother. I'm a friend. I'm a grandson. And in addition to that, I mean, obviously, I'm a child of God, but I'm also a writer. I'm a speaker, and I'm an author. Growing up in Kansas City, Missouri, it's a very segregated city. I mean, like the city. I mean, there's just like black folks live on this part of town, white folks live on that part of town. Like there's a street called Troost that kind of separates us. And
It's
like
called Truce.
yes, ma'am, Troost. And
Oh,
anything east of Troost, that is where black folks live. Anything west of Troost, that's where things start to get nicer, and that's where white people live. And you can just tell, just like how the property sort of it just things are starting to sort of get fixed up a little more. Grass is a little bit more manicured and cultivated. Schools are better. And so I grew up with a beautiful sense of being black. My mother, my grandparents, my family always instilled in me that being black is beautiful, and that there's nothing wrong with you. I remember when I was younger, and I wanted to be I wanted to be lighter, and my mom said, "Yo, like don't ever say that you're beautiful. If anything, I wish I can be darker, because my mom, she's a little darker than you are." Um, and it's 16 years old. Read the autobiography of Malcolm X. Totally changed my life, and from there, I've always been hypersensitive to race. Because being black in America, you have to being a black man, where you are a constant target from the age of, let's just say 11 or 12.
mm,
Black parents give these young children the talk. My mom, she gave me the talk, and for those who don't know what the talk is, that's just essentially sitting you down and letting you know, all right, so you're of a certain age, you're of a certain height, you look a certain way, the world is going to treat you differently. Specifically, white America is going to deem you as a threat. Police are going to be hostile towards you, and I always kept that in the back of my mind. And it wasn't until 2012 when unfortunately Trayvon Martin, he died, and it just really kind of opened up this seed that was planted when I read the autobiography of Malcolm X. And it showed me like just how white America really feels about black boys and black girls, and just how we're never given the benefit of the doubt. We're always seen a certain way. And so the next year I started writing articles about my experience in America, and that just kind of snowballed into interviews and podcasts, and writing, and writing essays just about my experience as a black man. And you know here I am today.
Wow.
Thank
And share with us, what are some of your books,
you.
and what do you write about now?
So my first book was called Straight Dope: A 360-Degree Look into American Drug Culture. The reason why that I wrote that is because I'm a very inquisitive guy, and so I just like talking to people. You know what I mean? Like I just like asking questions. I love listening to a story, because I feel like that stories for me, they resonate more than just say numbers or data. Like stories are data with experience. And so I wanted to know why are drugs so inundated in America. So I was influenced by a writer by the name of Studs Terkel. If you have not read Studs, shame on you. He's one of the greatest writers to ever live. And so I just wanted to just ask people, like, sorry, like, why is America so awash of drugs? So I talk to drug users, drug sellers, people who are in recovery, people who've lost folks to drugs, and just having this conversation. Then my second book, I pivoted. I wrote about this. I'm sorry, the second book is called All We Really Need Is Love: Stories of Dating, Relationships, Heartbreak, and Marriage. And it was just about, you know, how do people fall in love? How do people keep love? How do people lose love? And how do people regain love? And from that, Karen, I just began, like, I primarily write about race from the perspective of the black man in America. I also write about mass incarceration, politics, business, tech, and the occasional dating article. But just, my pieces have appeared in Black Enterprise, Harvard Business Review, Salon, Slate, Ravishly, Your Tango, uh, Raconteur, just the Good Men Project. That's where I got my start, and I just I just wanted to just get my voice out there, because I felt like that a lot of people that were writing about race that were black were not from them areas, like, I mean, and this is not a knock against people who are not from the ghetto, but I feel like that when you're writing about the black experience, and you are an African immigrant, or you're coming from an upper or middle class background, you don't really know the intricacies, or you have a lot of white people writing about black issues, and they just it's so it's so hollow. So I just felt that being someone that is from the ghetto, who's had his brushes with the law, and who faces racism on a regular basis, I just wanted to just speak for those who come up from situations such as myself.
Mm, yeah. And how is your work received?
Positive, for the most part. I mean, I think that whenever you write about something like this, Karen, you have to understand that there are people that are going to have disagreements. I mean, look, I'm a black man talking about racism, white supremacy, and anti-blackness. I don't call myself a POC. I have no problem calling out white supremacy. I have no problem calling out anti-blackness from other non-white cultures. And because of that, I've been called racial slurs. Like, there's been opportunities that I've been denied because of my voice, and I'm okay with that. Like,
Mm,
this this is my lot in life. I always say I would rather be rejected for who I am than to be accepted for who I'm not.
mm,
And so there's a certain line that you have to push, as they say in the hood. And I just think that some of my work has been shared. I mean, some people have just been like, wow, like, what you said was just like my voice, just, oh my God, thank you for talking about my life. I'd like to think that some of my work is like a beacon, it's like a flare up in the air. Hey, you're not the only one. You're not in the dark. I'm over here. I see you. And sometimes, I have people calling me nasty names. I mean, nigger, coon, snowball. I mean, like, what did they call me? They call me a jungle bunny. I mean, some platforms get really nasty, and that's okay. That's what comes with the territory.
Well, it's not okay. You should not be subjected to that. But yes, we know that trolls and haters and racists are very provoked by
Right.
any mention of these things, and as a black man in America, you already have a target on you, and now this just
100%.
amplifies it. But thank you for continuing to raise your voice.
Yes, ma'am.
And then you have a couple of TED Talks too.
That is correct. So my first, if anyone's listened to me for a good period of time, you would know that I have a stutter. I've been stuttering since the age of 5 or 6. And so my first TEDx was called How I Overcame the Fear of My Stutter. And it's just about how throughout my life I stuttered, and just how I let that sort of stop me from, getting certain opportunities, from just pursuing certain goals. And it wasn't until one day I said, listen, this is what I am. This is what I do. This doesn't define me. This is a part of me. This is the most personal part of my life. But, I'm not going to let this stop me from doing what I want to do. And then from there, in 2020, I did 2 more. The second one was called The Power of Sharing Your Story, because I truly believe that everyone has a story to tell. And I believe that everyone should share their story. To quote the late great Combat Jack, the universe flows in Technicolor. So I think that everyone needs to get out there and talk about their experience, talk about their life. The dominant narrative, Karen, it's so linear, right? It's like, you're white, you're straight, you're middle class, and
you went to college.
Exactly. You went to college. Your parents gave you $10,000-$20,000 for a house. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
you got 2 kids.
You got 2 kids. You got a dog named Spot.
You drive a hybrid.
You drive a hybrid.
Good about yourself.
I mean,
Ironically, everything we just mentioned.
You don't have the dog, though. You don't have the dog.
I don't have a dog. My ex-husband has the dog.
Oh,
so I get like the benefits of my kids having a dog without having any of the responsibility.
Hey man, like, dogs are awesome. But
so glad you're here.
But I mean, though, but like, the side note, I'm kind of more of a cat person now. I love cats. Like, I'm sorry, just like the late great Panther. She passed 2 years ago. Still grieving. So, but yeah. But so yeah, so I'm I just encourage people to write, to tell their story. And my third TEDx, Karen, was called The Vital Importance of Documenting the Moment. And what that was is that I wanted to talk about why and how Black people need to start controlling our own narrative when these when these police terrorism shootings start. When Breonna Taylor, God rest her soul, when she got shot, we need to control that narrative, because in America, Black folks are always going to be looked at as the aggressor. So yeah, those are the 3 TEDx's.
Wow. So if you want to share a little bit about how we met?
Yes. So I love this story. So Karen and I met when I listened. So I'm a fan of this podcast called The Context of White Supremacy. And, Gus T. Renegade, he's He's a very, very, very smart, very, very smart person. And so he had Karen on his show. And the context of white supremacy is, you can guess what they talk about by the title. And so Gus had Karen on a show. And look, Gus, he doesn't like white people, right? I mean, like, he talks about racism, white supremacy in a way that's very stern, very, very, very hard. And I appreciated the fact that, you went on a show. I felt one thing that I believe is that when you're having a discussion with somebody about these issues, it's like, you can agree, you can disagree, you can get your point across, but to sort of like keep on like beating them down, like I don't think that's constructive. And so because of that, I was like, wow, like, she's really getting beat up. But I just admired that, you went on the show and, I liked what you had to say. And so, I reached out to her because at the time I had just moved to the Bay Area, and I was like, hey, I heard you on Cows, you were very brave, and would you like to meet up for coffee, or for a drink? And we met up downtown, and we've just been friends ever since. I mean, I think that we've had a lot of disagreements, but I just feel like that as long as the disagreement isn't, as long as it is not rooted against your existence, then you can continue the friendship. If I mean, like, I don't have Trump supporters as friends. I just don't. I don't have people that listen to gosh, what is the little man?
Tucker Carlson.
Not Tucker Carlson, but I mean Shapiro. I don't have friends that listen to Dave Shapiro or
Ben Shapiro.
I'm sorry, but thank you, Ben Shapiro, or Alex Jones, because those people are opposed to who I am. But you can be friends with somebody just and not share the same opinion on things.
Yeah. I love that story so much, LeRon, because
it's an awesome story, right?
Yeah. Well, word to the wise. This was very early in my anti-racism activism journey. And word to the wise, when someone invites you onto their podcast, it's a good idea to actually listen to the podcast before agreeing to go on. So when he said, it's called The Context of White Supremacy, I was like, oh, that's perfect. No one knows.
I was like, oh my God, he went on Gus's show. Oh, wow.
Yeah. But it's a call-in show. And so people from all over call in, and they are extremely knowledgeable and have been engaged in this work for a long time. So it was like question after question after question. And I was getting very uncomfortable, but I was like, I thought it would be disrespectful for me to like not answer. It literally went on for more than 2 hours. All of these questions, and I was like feeling very, very smushed by the end. But I did grow so much from that experience, and I think it's important to just stay in the conversation. I mean, obviously, don't stay in the conversation if someone is harming you, but these conversations where we're really pushed. It's a huge growth opportunity, right? And we need more of these conversations. We need to be able to, that's why I host this weekly live stream. Like, we need to talk about the things that really divide us and the things, how do we heal our divides if we can't recognize them and talk about them and take accountability for the harm that we've caused and actually grow and transform. And I love what you said earlier. It's like, I don't have the same beliefs that I had 16 years ago, because I'm constantly learning, and I'm constantly listening, and I'm constantly being open to other perspectives. And that's all that we can do, right? We're all human. We were all conditioned. I was certainly conditioned to hold white supremacist beliefs. And so it's like a lifelong process of uprooting and unlearning and learning new things. And there's no shame in.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, Karen. I'm sorry.
No, you go.
I always think back to Dr. Bill Nye. He's really one of my heroes. And he had a debate with this Christian creationist name. I believe his name was Ken Ham, and they were just basically debating evolution, creationism, and Dr. Bill Nye made a point about how old the Earth was versus what Ken Ham said. He said something I'll never forget. He said, "Listen, I'm always looking for my theories to be disproven." And so, I will never forget where I was when I heard that, how it made me feel. And so for me, I think that you have to be open to challenge your ideals, to challenge the data. A lot of us have been misinformed, and that's because in America,
By design.
absolutely by design.
Yes.
It's a propaganda. I mean, it's if you're Black in America, they're going to have you thinking that you're shiftless, that you're an idiot, you don't work hard enough, you're slow, you're not genetically,
you're not capable.
Exactly, you're not capable, you're not genetically or biologically as on the same level as white people. And so you have to
and if you're a white person, you've been conditioned to believe all those things about LeRon.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that there is no white person on this earth that has not been affected by white supremacy. And what I mean by that is that we live in a society that says white is right, Black is wrong, right? Like Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, the author of the ISIS paper, God rest her soul, she once had a little rhyme. She said, white is right. If you're brown, stick around. Yellow, you mellow. If you're Black, give back. So growing up in a society, you indirectly or directly hear these things, and so you start to believe stereotypes. You start to believe that if I'm Black, I'm a criminal. The only way out of the hood is either by playing ball or by being a rapper. You know what I mean? Like, some type of entertainer, or I'm gonna go into the drug game. So you're not, if you constantly hear these things and if you don't challenge them, then you're gonna be stuck. And Karen, you're right. This is by design. If you look at today, all these books are being banned, right? There was and it bugged me out. Crazy. So there's an organization called Prager, or is it Prager U?
Yes, Prager University.
Man, I seen a commercial.
It's headquartered in San Diego, I think.
Are you? Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
So we need to protest them. But it's like, I seen this commercial. It was like early in the morning. This white family is having dinner, and this little boy is like, George Washington was racist, and his family bugs out, and Prager used all about these this education to not make white folks feel bad. I guess something like that. But if you look at things that's going on in Florida, if you look at the type of books that are being banned, that's furthering this sort of conditioning.
That's exactly why I'm running for Board of Education.
Absolutely.
And when you peel the onion back and you realize that from the beginning of universal public education in America, Ku Klux Klan, organized white supremacists, United Daughters of the Confederacy have targeted the public education system to not only, have segregated schools and keep children divided from each other, but also to indoctrinate white children in the ways of white supremacy, the way that the Ku Klux Klan got its members elected to school boards.
That is crazy.
And then the United Daughters of the Confederacy paid to have these textbooks written that made slavery seem like it was not so bad, and the Confederates were heroes and the North is the bad ones. And they would have essay competitions for kids to write about the Confederate heroes and all this stuff, and give scholarships to the ones with the best essays, and just constantly using our role as white mothers to indoctrinate kids. And then they even had the children's Ku Klux Klan and Children of the Confederacy, et cetera, et cetera. So this, and yeah, you look at, literally, that is why I'm running for Board of Education, because I was so enraged by everything going on around the country to attack public education. The nefarious people, real estate developers, the very elite, want public education destroyed because they want, there's just that study that came out that in the last 50 years, the 1% has accumulated $50 trillion of wealth from the lower and middle class people. All of the wealth has accumulated into the hands of the few. So they want us all to just work as, Grubhub drivers or Amazon warehouse workers. That's what they want for all of us, while they live these lives of lavish luxury. And it's so twisted. Yeah. I'm sorry. Let me just pause there.
Oh, no. I definitely feel like a lot of that is, it's sort of like running side by side. I mean, what really breaks my heart about the pandemic is just how many people are surviving via the gig economy. And, from the outside, you may think, oh man, like Lyft drivers, that's an easy job. You're like, all you need to do is just drive people around. But it's like, you don't look at the fact that these people have to drive long hours. They're sitting in a car.
They're sleeping in the Safeway parking lot.
Exactly. You're getting little bits of rest, like the wear and tear on your vehicle, coming in contact with people that may be spreading COVID and or monkeypox. I mean, putting yourself in danger. I mean, it's a lot, man. And all of this has just been exacerbated by this large income inequality. I always thought that San Francisco was the perfect example of just income inequality run amok, right? I mean, you have this city that is beautiful, but you have to be so rich or you're so poor, and the middle class is just evaporating. And it's so small, and it's like the people that live there, they're either transplants or they are what do you call it? They have that sort of like rental subsidy, rent control. So if you don't have that, it's hard to survive in there. And with the city that has 4 or 5% Black folks, like, I'm just like, I mean, it's an everyday battle to remain positive and Black and alive in a city like San Francisco.
Which is what James Baldwin said when he made his documentary about racism in San Francisco in the 1960s. The facts of life for the Black man in San Francisco is not distant from the life in Birmingham, Alabama.
Well, it's interesting that I'm not surprised that the Baldwin will say that, like, he was such a forward thinker, but I think that a lot of people, when you come to a city like San Francisco, such as myself, when I came to the Bay Area back in 2012, I thought that it was this liberal paradise. I thought that, it was very accepting, and, whatever I thought that San Francisco was had already left, because of tech that it has came in there. I mean, and tech is such a white dominated space. It's and something that I learned from you, Karen, it thrives on social capital. So because tech is a invite only space, to be honest with you, right? They're going to cultivate San Francisco with those type of people. And these type of folks that come in, they're not concerned with diversity. They're not concerned with racism. They're not concerned with trying to make an equitable environment, because they truly believe in meritocracy.
Yes,
And
they believe in, quote, meritocracy, because they
exactly,
think that that's why they have what they have, which is what I was conditioned to believe
yeah, I mean,
while they grew up in total privilege and isolation,
you know what, like that's
surrounded only by white kids like themselves.
let me speak to every poor Black and brown person out there. I really want y'all to listen to this. You don't have what you don't have because of racism, white supremacy.
Mm. Say it
Listen,
again, LeRon.
you are where you are. You don't have what you don't have because of racism, white supremacy. It's not because you're not brilliant enough, because we are brilliant. It's not because you can't stay out of trouble. It's, the system is designed specifically to ensnare and incarcerate young Black men. To put it into perspective, the United States has imprisoned more Black men than women in the United States, India, Europe, Asia, all all the major countries. They have not imprisoned more women than America has imprisoned Black men. For every 100,000 people locked up, 8,000 of them are Black men. So that is, no, to quote Yvette Carnell, that is no longer a personal choice, but that is a systemic effort to lock you up. The reason why that you are not in tech is not because you cannot write code. It's not because you don't have a CCNA, you don't have an MCP. It's because they're not hiring us. Facebook has about 4% Black people.
And
Google Google
they've
3.
been reporting their numbers and spending all this money on, quote, diversity, equity, and inclusion for almost 10 years now, and none of the numbers have budged. And
Well,
then they say, oh, it's because they don't offer AP computer science in Alabama. What?
that's crap. No, you know what? Do you know what the reason why is, Karen? Is because when they see someone named LeRon, when they see Jose on the application, they're gonna skip over it. When they
And
see
they'll probably never even see the application, because how do we get jobs is through people we know.
like 75% of all jobs are gained by someone, 3/4 of all jobs. So I've been in the tech space. These people, like the folks that are in there, they're not smarter than you. They're not better than you. So,
Thank you.
you grow up and you think that you're inferior. You think that you don't work hard enough, but in actuality, the system was not set up for us to fail. That does not mean that you must stop trying. I'm just letting you know this is the playing field,
Yeah.
and I've gained success, but it's also been harder, and that's just what it is to be Black. Like Martin Luther King once said, being Black is like having a rock in your shoe, right?
Mm,
Like, you're always trying to move the rock around to get comfortable, but it's always there.
mm.
So, there's always these barriers. And so I just wish that we would be honest about how systemic racism is. But you have people such as Ron DeSantis and just his ilk that just want to deny it, and it's like, well, no, it's real.
Yeah. Well, as you were talking, I want to do the counterpart. Real talk, white people. The
Absolutely.
reason why we have what we have is not because we are inherently superior, more intelligent, more capable, or anything else. It's because for generations, we have benefited from policies designed to allow us to accumulate tremendous, well, not tremendous, but some wealth, some middle class wealth, right? Ranging from slavery to land theft and genocide of Native Americans, to exploiting the labor of Asian Americans and Latino Americans, to the Homestead Act, which is what set my family up for success. My great grandfather comes here with nothing, and is able to purchase 160 acres of land from the US government, for which he pays $60. That land is still in my family's possession. It's where my mother grew up. It's how she became a middle class homeowner and college graduate. It's how I became a middle class homeowner and graduate, and many other of my relatives as well, all stemming from that one land grant. Now, the narrative I learned growing up is, oh, look at our great grandfather. He was this penniless immigrant, and he was able to come to this country and through his own hard work, build this legacy for himself. And that, yes, that is true. And it is also true that the reason why he was able to build that legacy was because of the land grant, that he could have worked extremely hard throughout all of his life, but if he had not received that piece of capital that he was given because he was a white Protestant immigrant, our family would be in a very different situation. And the homestead land grants were only for white Americans. A few Black people qualified, but overall, almost all Black people at that time were stuck sharecropping in the South or fleeing to the North to try and work in northern cities, but met with hostility there too. So imagine how different our country's history had been if the land grants had been
Right.
deliberately allocated to Black people so that they could have owned land the way that my family was allowed to. And whose land was that? That was the traditional territory of the Cheyenne, Arapaho, and Kiowa people that militias came through and killed or pushed to far off reservations so that the government could accumulate the land and reallocate it to my grandfather. I'm not saying this to make white people feel guilty. I'm saying this to make white people feel accountable. We are not responsible for what happened in the past, okay? We are responsible for what we do right now and how we live our lives right now. And um knowing what our history is, we have to take accountability for what we're going to do in our lifetimes to change this system, because we benefit from it, we control it, we have the majority. And
Absolutely.
if we just sit back and say, "Oh, this is cool," and let it ride, that's exactly what's going to happen. But if we say, "I refuse to allow Black men to be incarcerated at this rate or killed by police, and I'm going to do something about it," we can come together and actually change things. But we have to be accountable, and we have to know that what we have is not due to our inherent superiority.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that it's willful. It's not ignorance, because I don't think white people are ignorant when it comes to racism. I just think that when you know things are foul, you can rationalize anything, right? You can say, well, yeah, I got this, but there's opportunities for them, right? And it's like it it doesn't work like that. I'm reading a book right now. Well, I was reading. I haven't picked it up in a little bit, but it's called The Code of Law. I believe it's by
Oh,
Richard
yes.
Rothstein, right? And
Yes.
and it just talks about like how real estate and land and how housing has been set up to discriminate against Black Americans, and it's from not being able to use the GI Bill to just being just ran out of certain towns, houses being destroyed, burned down, the Klan and the police working in cahoots with each other, local government, federal government not wanting to allow Black people to live in certain areas. I mean, there's
Black
a
people
reason.
being forced to live in environmentally dangerous
Absolutely.
areas.
In the book, the writer talks about how Richmond, became
Mm.
this certain area for Black people to live. And I mean, these houses that, you know, house Black people were just like poorly constructed, shoddy. I mean, so there's so much. So I say that to say, you know, it's not because white people are just so much more brilliant. It's not because Black folks are not doing something right. It's because the system set it up this way. And so I just wish that when people talk about race, you know, like, when people try to talk about the condition of Black people in America, I wish that they would read, because the data's out there. You know, like the information is out there. I mean, it's so, you know, the next time when you come to me and say, oh, you know, I don't have any white privilege. Oh, my family worked hard. I mean, come on, man. Like, you were not, look, and this is not to say, you know, there aren't brilliant white folks. Obviously they are. Steve Jobs, hello, you know, Studs Terkel. It's just to say that it's hard to claim this brilliance when you're stepping on the neck of other people.
Mm.
You know, that's
LeRon, that's deep. Listen, I know you need to bounce.
Yes,
I have my two last questions for you. Absolutely. Number one is, if you could wave a magic wand and get white people to stop doing something or start doing something, what would it be and why?
I would say my magic wand would be for white folks to really stop denying racism and its effects on how they're able to live. Mm-hmm. You know, and again, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. You know, you have the system that was set up to elevate one group and lower others. And by not acknowledging that, you know, that's not going to, you know, for one, it gives you an inflated sense of importance and success, right? Because again, you know what, I liken it to the college admission scandal, right? You know, you remember Lori Loughlin and her husband Massimo, how they paid for their students to get into college. And I'll never forget, Julia Roberts said something that I just it hurt me to hear it. She said those parents didn't have faith in their children, and I was like, damn, that just, you know, that just
like you think that's good for your kid to pay for them,
right? That's what it's like, you know, you actually do not, like, you don't have faith that your children can make it, and so that's what the system is like. If everything was fair and balanced, then it would be a meritocracy. But it's never been a meritocracy. Like, meritocracy would mean that Black people are getting funding for their startups. That's what equal
reparations.
There would you know, parity would mean reparations. You know, meritocracy would mean that I don't go into Google and not only I'm one of the few, but people think that I'm a janitor or a chef when I'm actually a network engineer. That's what meritocracy is.
Wow. So deep, LeRon. So deep. Yeah. Thank you so much. Where can people find your work, follow you?
Yes, ma'am. So people can find me at www.leronbarton.com. That's LeronBarton. I'm on LinkedIn, LeRon L. Barton. You can see my gorgeous smile here.
So handsome. Look, how tall are you, LeRon? You're like 6 feet tall.
Okay. Whoa. Come on now. I'm 6'2". Don't be trying to take them inches off. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, no, though, but you know, it's funny. Like, I used to want to be short when I was younger because I thought short folks look better in their clothes. And my father put me aside. He's like, "Don't ever say that." Like, you know, because I mean, it's funny. It's like, you know, being tall has definitely aided me in the dating market. Like, you know,
tall privilege.
For some women, like, it was like, you know, for some reason, women can be height bigots, you know. Like this.
Okay,
Like,
we're hearing Good Morning. NPR Morning Edition had a great conversation on race yesterday. Thought racy conversations ought to be on next. Thank you, Kevin.
damn,
Oh my
damn right.
God, Ashanti. Oh my God. You were like one of my heroes. I got to get you
All
on this
right.
show too.
Come on
Thank
the
you
show,
so
man.
much for tuning in, Ashanti. Oh my God. This is like
Karen's trying to reach
fangirling over
folks.
here.
That's something now though. But like seriously, Karen, like thank you for the conversation.
Thank you,
I mean,
LeRon.
I always like talking to you. I mean, you're one of my really good friends. Anything that I can support you on, please support Karen Fleshman as she runs to be a part of the school board, because this is a parent who lives in the city, who has non-white children, and who wants to see every other kid win. You know,
I'm popping my Act Blue into the thing, please.
I will support, please support her. And just anything that I can do to get the word out. I mean, like the school board in San Francisco. Ugh.
Yeah, don't get me started.
Terrible. I mean, shout out to Bevette Brackett. You know what I mean. Shout out to all them folks grinding. What's the sister's name? Who got voted out?
Allison Collins.
Black self-respect. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm very disappointed. I'm very sad. I'm not surprised at Chessa how
Don't even get me started.
you know what?
Don't get me started.
I'll leave you with this, right? So when I taught in the San Francisco County Jail, I asked some of the men, I was like, what do you guys feel about Chessa? And they all had good things to say about him. So so the brothers locked up like a district attorney, that says something. That says something. So I love you very much, Karen.
I love you too, LeRon.
I gotta go, but let's definitely
thank you everybody for tuning in. So next week we're not at 8 a.m. We're at 9 a.m. on Thursday, and it's
starting
a special
little
show
later
with Future Kane talking with white women. So join us
next
on awesome. September 1, 9 a.m. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Great to see you, and have a wonderful day. Thank you, LeRon. Love you so much.
Love you as well.
Okay, bye-bye.